Hello and welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Scales of Fate from IV Studios. If you're new to the channel, we will do these videos like previews, reviews, playthroughs, and just have general discussions on board games. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, I please welcome you to subscribe to the channel and join the Game Brigade community. As a reminder, we are encroaching on our 10,000 subscriber milestone. And as a thank you for everyone that's part of the community, we are doing a giveaway. Now, originally we had one giveaway to give away, but now we have two because one of our last videos, a publisher has also reached out and offered to give a game, a pledge to our community. So that is a pledge for Syria, as well as a pledge for Avalon, the Riven Vale. So we'll be giving away two of those. To remember to enter our giveaways, you must subscribe to the channel. You must give us a like on the video. And to get your entry submitted, you'll have to do a hashtag QOTD stands for question of the day. At some point in this video, I'm going to ask a question to you, the audience, and to enter, you must answer your question with that hashtag QOTD, and then please answer my question. I will reach out to the winner of the giveaway by replying to one of your comments. Okay, so we are diving into Scales of Fate. Now, this is the latest game from IV Studios. Now, this falls in line with the same line of Veiled Fate, which is a hidden movement, not hidden movement, but it's like a social deduction game where you are playing with a group of people, controlling a demigod as you move it around a board, trying to get different points and to get the most favor of the gods. And the goal of that game is to try to get points without people understanding or knowing that you are that specific character. Scales of Fate takes that core concept of Veiled Fate, which is a very highly touted game, and brings it to a two-player puzzle, but keeps the core mechanisms the same. It's a very, very interesting system. So I've kind of built a random game here with some examples of how the movement might work, but we're going to talk quickly about how these things interact and what they do, and then kind of talk about my experiences playing this game to see if it might be something you would be interested in to add to your collection. Especially if you're like a person who likes two-player games that can be completed in about 30 minutes, that have a lot of interesting mechanics and thought interactions together, this is going to be a game for you. But let's talk about how this game works. So at the start of the game, you're going to have all your demigods here centralized at the 7 victory point area. That is the default scoring. You can get points up or negative, but really the points are more of they interact together in interesting ways. So, and you have all these demigods at the start of the game. Remember, it's a two-player game. Each player is going to be shuffled and given out 2 of these hidden demigod cards, and on those cards are going to be your 2 demigods. This is important because the orientation or the placement of their pillars here on the scoring track is going to mean a lot in terms of your end game scoring. So I am pink and blue. Let's say, for example, pink and blue end their game both together at the 9 victory point section. That means for this game, I would score 9 points on top of whatever other bonus points I may score. But let's say I score 8 points and 9 points. Well, you're going to take 9 minus 8, and now that's my new point, so I only get 1 point. So you have to really play a game. If you're not going to get your demigods to have the same point value, you're going to want a massive difference between the two to get the most point scoring. And I've seen games that happen like this, where you have one demigod at 13, the other one at 1. So you'll take 13 minus 1, 12 points. That's an incredible score. But you can't let your opponent know which of your demigod is yours, because if they discover what your demigod is, they're going to actively work to make sure that they are together as close as they are without actually overlapping one another. And there's a few ways that has happened, that way that the game will do that. So how do the interactions work? So if we go to the board here, I kind of had a mini game going on with my wife. If we go to the board here, you can see there are several different types of tiles. Now this board is completely set up randomized. When you start the game, you're going to have all these tiles face down, kind of shuffled up, and you're going to place them out on the board and turn them face up so that you kind of don't really have an awareness of where things are going to be located. The actual location tiles, these are kind of activation or worker placement locations, are going to be dictated based off the age cards that you have placed here. There'll be 3 ages you're going to be playing through, and each of these age cards will have a location for all of these places. Now, and technically on this map, the red tile will go here. I was showing my wife how that kind of worked by moving that one there. So we'll put this actually to actually make sure we're copying this setup. So now we've got the board set up. If we look at the age card here, there's a few things I want to take note of. First, we have a definition down here. Basically, wherever this pip lines up is going to score that resulted point to whoever has been smited. There's a few ways that that could happen. So it starts with the neutral zone. If you take the action located here, this will move this one way or the other. Whoever's activated that location can make that decision. From there are a few other activation zones. We have this eyeball with a lightning bolt. That basically means to smite or to send a demigod to the underworld. So if I do that, I can send this pink demigod down to the underworld. The green location, if we send a worker there, let's take the yellow guy, we'll get you the green, where'd it go? The green activation tile. So these have specific names. I'm not sure what they are, but we'll talk about how these actually work. Same thing, if we go to the white, it'll take the white one. And if you go to the red one, it'll take the red one. Now these 3 different charms, these little activation doodads, all do something differently, but they are the core way of scoring or changing points. So if we take the white one and you put it on, you have to put it on a border of one of the edges here. So let's say, for example, we do something like this. It is going to trigger in the row or column based on where you're placing it, every demigod that is adjacent or touching a similar colored tile. So in this regard, I place the white one here. It's going to trigger on this red one, scoring the red one 2 points. So it'll go here. It'll move here. Doesn't do anything because there's no white one here. And then it'll move here, and the purple one is going to lose a point. Okay. Now, alternatively, if we go here and put this green one here, it's going to trigger in this column. Hitting the blue one here, it's going to gain a point and lose a point, so it's not going to move. And this yellow one is going to lose a point. So that is kind of the effective way the game works. The last one that we have available to us is the red one. What the red one does is it triggers everyone that is touching that specific tile. So I place it here. Both yellow and blue are going to lose an additional point. And that is right there how that works. So you can see how kind of the shift movement works. The last one we didn't talk about was this one here. Again, that will change the final scoring. So if I do something like that, it's going to make sure whoever's in the smited zone will lose 2 points. That is effectively how a round will go. At the end of the round, there's a question at the top of each of the ages. At the top of the card, it says, and there's different ones, and there are probably going to be more with the crowdfunding campaign. But this one specifically says demis between 8 to 10 renown. So what it's basically asking, and this is part of the deduction aspect of the game, so you can start learning who your people are. It's going to ask both players, and you have to answer it truthfully, do you have one of your 2 demis between 8 to 10 renown? So between here and here. Well, I have the pink demi, and he is here. I don't have to tell him what color, but I have to say yes. And now that will indicate to my opponent that I am one of these 2 demis right here. So that is a way that people can kind of learn deduction. Now, you obviously know this before the round has started because it's available for everyone to see at the top of the board there. So you can play around that to make sure that either both your demis are up there or none of your demis are up there, or maybe one, whatever the way you want to play it, so that, there's enough misinformation being thrown around so your opponents can't fully lock in on who you are. Now, you'll notice that several of these demis weren't played this round. That is normal. So right now we have 3 demis that weren't used. As we go through additional ages, so if we go to say age 2 here, it's going to change the entire layout of the board. So all of these action places are going to move, and it's also going to move the placement of the red tile. So it's going to kind of swap up a little bit of the tile placement. But in this case, it's going to add an additional action spot. And in the third age, it's going to add an additional action spot. So you will have everything but one demi will be placed somewhere on the board at any given time throughout the course of the game. That is pretty much the rough of it. There's a little bit more, such as the god powers that we have here. These are one-time use abilities. If you take a god power to use it, such as the switch ability, which means you can switch 2 characters down here in the underground. You could take a steal, which means I'm going to steal one of these power tiles from my opponent before they had a chance to play it. Or the smite one, if I want to just smite a god and send them down into the undergrowth, in the underworld. And there's reasons you might want to do that. Maybe there is a point here that's going to move this down further so that it moves it away from your demigod. So I want to do something like that. So there's reasons as to why you might want to take that. But if you do take one of these god powers, there is a negative point to your final point scoring system. So you have to be aware of that. And then additionally, there are additional points that you can gain at the end of the game to stack onto your final scoring based on if you're able to guess correctly your opponent's demigods. So if you believe you have sourced out who they are by using your notepad and kind of thinking about, okay, based on the information I've seen, using the age cards, what they're doing, who do I believe they are? And then if you're able to guess correctly, you can get additional points to your final score. So that is Scales of Fate in a quick rundown. But let's talk about the things that I really liked about this game and maybe some of the things you might want to consider when backing this game. Scales of Fate is deceptively easy to teach and learn, but very deep in terms of the actual mechanical gameplay. There are so many moving pieces that you have to be aware of with every single action that it directly changes the way the game plays. Now, let me give you an example. Some of the things I experienced through my several times playing this game. So at the beginning of the game, you have all of these different types of location tiles that have different types of action abilities that you're going to want to take because you're going to want to score those points. But you have to also remember what type of negative or positive benefits that those are going to be associated with by doing it. And it's very easy to just place a guy not really necessarily thinking about the long-term ramifications of that by placing it there and what your opponent can do by placing something here and triggering a bunch of different types of points or negative points. For example, in this case, triggering two targets right there. There's a lot of different things that can happen that can trigger these points. And as you start playing and things start happening, you start realizing, oh my gosh, I really need to somehow make that character lose points to do what I need to do. I don't want to give it away that that's my character because my opponent can then use one of their powers to really hurt me. You start finding yourself understanding that every single move is very, very important in this game. Everything you do, every action will have a chaining, like a cascading effect, which I really think is interesting. And it's not like this crazy deep, like if you do this, sorry, white piece. If you do something like this, it's going to it was a wrong decision. It's not going to like sink your game, but it does give you an appreciation that there's a lot more going on here with a game whose rules you could teach someone in roughly 5 minutes. I really appreciate that scale of difficulty as well as the ease of getting into this game. So I would rate this game as a game that's easy to learn but difficult to truly master. And of course, I don't think there's a big skill gap, in terms of the game. Like there's not a thing here where someone's going to be immensely better. There's some 2-player games that are kind of this way where whoever has a more experience, obviously if you have more experience in the game, you're always going to be better than it. But this isn't a game where I felt like, there's times where I felt like you need to have a similar skill level of a game like this, a dueling game, to really get the most out of this, because this game really just utilizes the player's cognitive reasoning abilities. It doesn't challenge you to know the game. It just really challenges the player to challenge themselves and how well that they can kind of, see abstractly everything that happens with their different movements and different placements of tiles. So I think that's a really, really good bonus. Who would I not see this for? I think this game does have a lot of risk for analysis paralysis. If you have a partner or even yourself who can find yourself having difficulties making decisions because you are afraid to make the wrong mistake, this game might not be the best for you in that regard. Now, I don't necessarily think that this game has analysis paralysis decision points that are going to, like I said, sink your ship or ruin the game for you. But I can see people, especially with the games I've played, where people are looking at the board and they're just trying to really analyze every aspect or every instance or thing that could happen that could either sway the game one way or the other. So those analysis paralysis aspects could come in. Now, luckily, like I said earlier in this video, there's not a ton of time in this game. It's very much like a 30-minute game. It moves quickly. Once you start getting a few games on your belt, you're going to find yourself being able to quickly get a game going and played in a full about 30 minutes. I really, really do appreciate that. So overall, what are my thoughts of Scales of Fate, and would I recommend this game? I recommend Scales of Fate if you are a person who is definitely looking for an abstract puzzle game, like tic-tac-toe on steroids, effectively, is almost what it feels like. When I asked my wife, what did you think after we did a little bit, she's like, it feels like tic-tac-toe on steroids. And I agree with that. But at least in this game, you're not going to get a cats game and constantly draw. You're always going to get a winner here on this one based on your placements and your movements and all the things. So I definitely think this is a game that has that abstract kind of logical thinking element to it in a very condensed experience, which I think is great. Now, the nice thing about Ivy Studios that I know a lot of people do appreciate who back their games. Now, I have literally backed every single Ivy Studios game. What I truly appreciate is their attention to detail, the attention to deluxification, and they truly want to make games that are unique to your collection. And I think Scales of Fate has definitely nailed it on this one. This game definitely doesn't feel like any other game in my collection, and I'll be happy to easily bring this out to small events, to friends that are not big board gamers, where we have a little bit of time before doing something. Hey, let's try out this game. It's a really palatable game for a lot of different types of people, and I think you would really enjoy it. So that's my video or my discussion of Scales of Fate. Let's go into the questions of the day. My question for you is, how does Scale of Fate look for you, and how does it implement into your collection? Is this something that you could see buying or backing? And if not, why? And if yes, why? I want to hear more from you guys. So remember, if you want to get the entry into the giveaway, do the hashtag QOTD, answer that question, and you'll get an entry into the giveaway. But remember, you must be subscribed to the channel and like the video. Please don't forget to do that. Anyways, thank you for watching. My name is Brian. I will talk to you very soon.